Okay, good day to you guys. I also want to make an additional announcement just about the 2 extra days I was off. I am in a licensure program. Not really going to get into the details, but I really had to study for an exam that was just a day or so ago. And so I wasn't able to come on and read, but it's okay. I'm back, and we're going to just keep on going ahead. We're not going to give up, and that's the point of all this is even if you are reading the Bible for yourself, I would say just there is no time constraint where you have to finish by this day or whatever. Just as you just keep reading, you don't give up and just read. At least that's kind of was my first experience with reading through the entire Bible. Was I didn't have a time period. It actually took me quite a long while. I can't remember how long. I can't remember. Within a year for sure, maybe within 6 months. I'm not really sure, but it was long, and I didn't have a real set schedule. It was just like whenever I felt like reading, and could find time to read on a bus or on my break at a job or something. But anyway, I am rambling on. I just didn't want you guys to think that I'm not that I'm just out, not caring about it. I do care, and which is why I'm back, but I also have like my life and things in it to do, like exams and other stuff. So anyway, I am going to move on to Exodus chapter 14. And this is the King James and Message version in one video. And I'm just going to get into it right now, starting with the King James version. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel that they turn and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon, before it shall ye encamp by the sea. So, for Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land, the wilderness have shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants turned against the people, and they said, Why have we done this? What have we let Israel go from serving us? And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him, and he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt and captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with a high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them by encamping by the sea, beside Pi-hahiroth and Baal-zephon. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. And they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians. For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than we should die in the wilderness. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And the Lord said unto Moses, Wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel, that they go forward. But lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thine hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh, and upon all his host, upon his chariots, upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, upon his horsemen. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them, and a pillar of the cloud went from their face, and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians, the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them. But it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all the night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them, all their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them in the midst of the sea, even all the Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and it took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw that great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians, and the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. Going right into the message. God spake to Moses, Tell the Israelites to turn around, make camp in Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. Camp on the shore of the sea opposite of Baal-Zephon. Pharaoh will think the Israelites are lost. They're confused. The wilderness has closed in on them. Then I'll make Pharaoh's heart stubborn again, and he'll chase after them. And I'll use Pharaoh and his army to put my glory on display. Then the Egyptians will realize that I am God. And that's what happened. When the king of Egypt was told that the people were gone, he and his servants changed their minds and said, "What have we done letting Israel, our slave labor, go free?" So he had his chariots harnessed up and got his army together. He took 600 of his best chariots with the rest of the Egyptians' chariots and their drivers coming along. God made Pharaoh, king of Egypt, stubborn, determined to chase the Israelites as they walked out on him without even looking back. The Egyptians gave chase and caught up with them, where they made camp by the sea. All Pharaoh's horse-drawn chariots and their riders, all his foot soldiers, there at Pi-hahiroth opposite Baal-Zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up and saw them, Egyptians coming at them. They were totally afraid. They cried out in terror to God. They told Moses, weren't the cemeteries large enough in Egypt so that you had to take us out here in the wilderness to die? What have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? Back in Egypt, didn't we tell you this would happen? Didn't we tell you, leave us alone here in Egypt? We're better off as slaves in Egypt than as corpses in the wilderness. Moses spake to the people, don't be afraid. Stand firm and watch God do his work of salvation for you today. Take a good look at the Egyptians today, for you're never going to see them again. God will fight the battle for you, and you just keep your mouth shut. God said to Moses, why cry out to me? Speak to the Israelites. Order them to get moving. Hold your staff high and stretch your hand over the sea, split the sea, and the Israelites will walk through the sea on dry ground. Meanwhile, I'll make sure the Egyptians keep up their stubborn chase. I'll use Pharaoh and his entire army, his chariots, his horsemen, and put my glory on display so that the Egyptians will realize that I am God. The angel of God that had been leading the camp of Israel now shifted and got behind them. And the pillar of cloud that had been in front also shifted to the rear. The cloud was now between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel. The cloud enshrouded one camp in the darkness and flooded the other with light. The two camps didn't come near each other at all. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and God, with a terrific east wind all night long, made the sea go back. He made the sea dry ground. The sea waters split. The Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground, with the waters a wall to the right and to the left. The Egyptians came after them in full pursuit, every horse and chariot and driver of Pharaoh racing into the middle of the sea. It was now the morning watch. God looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud on the Egyptian army and threw them into a panic. He clogged the wheels of their chariots, and they were stuck in mud. The Egyptian said, "Run from Israel. God is fighting on their side against Egypt." God said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, and the waters will come back over the Egyptians, over their chariots, over their horsemen." Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the day broke, and the Egyptians were running. The sea returned to its place as before. God dumped the Egyptians in the middle of the sea. The waters returned, drowning the chariots and riders of Pharaoh's army that had chased after Israel into the sea. Not one of them survived. But the Israelites walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall to the right and to the left. God delivered Israel that day from oppression of the Egyptians. And Israel looked at the Egyptians dead, washed up on the shore of the sea, and realized the tremendous power that God brought against the Egyptians. The people were in reverent awe before God and trusted in God and his servant Moses. Okay, so this is a very famous scene, There's a lot of movies depicting this. Probably the first time I saw it in a movie was that cartoon, The Prince of Egypt, which I still think is pretty good. It held up pretty well. It makes me really think of the imagery, because I think they did a really good job animating the parting of the sea, and I remember the whale and the fishes and everything. They're able to see it. But and I just always wonder, that must have been really something, amazing sight to actually see this sea parted like a wall, and you're just walking through it on dry ground. I mean, really, that's just something supernatural that just doesn't happen, right? Unless some kind of miracle hand of God. It's really interesting. After they were released and they started on their journey and they were long gone, that Pharaoh, and it says God hardened his heart, but I already told you what that is. I could be wrong. Totally share your opinion if you want, what you think that means. But it says that even then, after they were long gone, he was still harboring this he could not lose mentality. He just didn't want to lose. And honestly, it's not the people that he didn't want to lose against. It was really God. At the core of this, he didn't want to lose to God, which is weird because you're a human being. You are a creation of, this God that you're not wanting to lose to. You're going to lose to him because he's God and you're just a person that he made. So, I mean, there's just so much going on there that I think is just kind of crazy. He just can't really let this go, And I suppose it could partially be because he just dealt with a lot of loss. His whole country is destroyed. It's in ruins. Now he doesn't even have slaves to help build it back up. But it didn't have to be that way. He chose that. He chose to keep on lying about letting them go and then reneging on that, and to the point that more and more and more things happened that ruined his land, his country, his life, his family. It never had to be that way. He could have just let them go. But I mean, I get after maybe one or two times, maybe because you're used to being Pharaoh, used to having your way. And maybe he needed to test it, but he tested it 9 or so times. It was kind of crazy. And even now, after all of this, his heart is so hard after everything that he's lost. And he's just really I can't let this go. Oh gosh. I mean, you must have seen this. Some of you must have, not all of you must have seen it in real life. People acting like this where they just can't forgive or can't let go of things, and it's not even that big of a deal really, because it doesn't have anything to do with you or that person, but it's just something that they're harboring so much that's just ridiculous. They're harboring it so much that it's self-destructive. I know I've known people like that, where it's they'll sabotage an entire good thing because of this mindset of not wanting to lose I don't know. And in reality, you're not really losing. So he could have been blessed probably by letting them go in the first place. Who knows? He definitely wouldn't have been cursed the way that he was, going back and forth and like not just keeping his word in the first place. Anyway, it's just weird. He goes after them. They get scared, the Israelites, which is, I get it to an extent. They've been through a lot. 430 years, I think it said, of slavery. So they went through so much. And, I can only imagine, you're just tired of things going wrong. But also God has come through so much already. That also makes me think of my own life. I was telling you guys about a test that I just took, and I was putting it off because I didn't feel confident about it. I still don't really know how I passed it, to be honest, except to say that it was God. But I have this whiteboard. I should go and get it really quick. In fact, hold on. Let me see. I'm going to go and get it. Okay. Sorry, guys. I actually got up and got it. I've got this whiteboard. I've got several of them for different purposes. But this one, I hung it up on my fridge. And it helps me to remember. There's a lot of little notes and things that I leave around. Like you see these verses and things. I have things like this all around my house, like in different forms, to just remind me of God and his presence and his promises, and to keep my faith and my hope and just stay positive and stay hopefully the way that God wants me to be, or as close to that as I can in my power with his help. But this is one thing that I have that's like that, and it's been on here so long that I probably would need like some MAGA spray to remove it at this point, but I'll just show you. It's just like, it says, "Thank you so much." And it used to say God of Israel, but I ended up changing it over some point in time. I'm not sure if it was last year or what, but it says his name in Hebrew, Yahweh of Israel. And it just reminds me of this chapter because, the people of Israel were so discouraged and still scared even after all of these wonders. And it just reminds me of my life. Like I'm taking these tests after tests to get my license. And you can see I've been taking it for a couple of years, these tests and things, this program that I'm in. I'm at the tail end of it. I'm almost done, finally. And you can see, like, I'm saying thank you because he helped me pass my first round of exams. And I was really nervous about it. And I just couldn't believe that I passed, the first round. But it became a thing after a while. It became a thing because I wrote down here, "You did it again." I'm sorry, I'm like banging against this. It says, "You did it again." And then it over and over, it says again and again. And, just over at different times, again and again. And I even have, "Let's make it really count this term," again. And I just wrote a new one yesterday or the day before yesterday here. Again, because I also have these moments that, even though he's shown me that he's helping me and he's got my back, I'm like still nervous about things and still doubting. I didn't really feel good about taking that test. And I didn't feel confident about it. And there were all these things coming up against me supernaturally, almost to like prevent me from taking it, or just all kinds of stuff. It was really out there. But a miracle happened. I got the results and I did well. And yeah, sure, I studied and all of that. But for sure, I'm going to give the glory to God because I was not confident. And I was taking the practice tests and I didn't feel good about them. And there was all these things trying to stop me, as I said, supernaturally. And even while I was taking it, I didn't feel confident about my answers. And part of that is just a confidence in myself that I'm still working on. But it's also just, this has all happened over and over and over again to show me that God's got my back and that I just really need to just stick with him. He's going to help me finish this program, I still have no idea because I'm still over here like the Israelites going. I still have some more tests. The biggest ones are coming up, in a couple of months. And I have no idea how I'm going to pass them. But by the grace of God, like he's done so many times before, he's going to do it again for me. You know, he's going to see me through to the end of this program, and we're going to get my license. It's going to be great. So anyway, I wanted to show you guys that because it just made me think of these Israelites that even though they'd seen God do all of these wonders over and over again, and he's even set them free, as he said he was going to do, they were still doubting because they saw this trouble headed their way. And I'm trying to find out where it is really fast that I do it. It's in Exodus 14, verse 14. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. I know that one really, really well. And sometimes another translation, I think it says, you just need to be still. You know, you just need to be still. The Message translation says, keep your mouth shut. Which is true. There's power in the tongue. Just be careful about, some of the things that you say. And that can be hard. I struggle with that still to this day. Just trying to stay positive and speak positive. But I'm determined to master it with God's help. But, it's true. You just need to depend on God. Even if it seems like this long, terrible storm is taking place. Maybe for years or all your life. But I found, and in a Bible study some days ago, I think I mentioned this already in a previous video, maybe the last one, of saying, even with things that are going wrong, like I'm going to stick with God because he's my only hope. He's our only hope, and things could probably be worse, I think, if you were to leave him and go be of the world because you think that walking with God is too hard or just life in general is too hard. And some people do turn away and maybe get the worldly gifts at first, but there's always a repercussion for turning away from God or just not walking with him and just being of the world. It's not what it seems. It's all smoke and mirrors, the good things that you're getting by being of the world and of the flesh, of your own desire. So I'm going to stick with God. Even in times where I do have moments because I'm human and I doubt like these Israelites. As I said, God just continuously shows me over and over and over that he's got my back. So I don't know if I'm ever going to watch this, to be honest. When I'm finished the program, I'm probably going to frame this or something because it just reminds me of this season I had with God where he was just showing up. And this isn't the only area, it's just every area in my life he shows up. But this one is just, and day before yesterday when I wrote on this, I was thinking to myself, like, this is really special, it's just an old whiteboard. But it just shows over and over again, over a nice chunk of period of time, how God has been there for me. How he's really been there for me. So, yeah, it's about 2 years of him being there for me, too. It's about 2 years worth one here of a program that I'm in, and I'm finishing, hopefully, very soon. Whatever the pace is, I'm just going to go with God on it. Because I got another test coming, like, really soon, like in the next couple of weeks. And I'm nervous, again, because it's on a subject that probably the subject that I feel the least confident about. But, I'm just going to trust God in this. These are some of my notes for the test, actually. Look, you can see it says, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, but I just wrote it at the very beginning, the top of my notes, because I was like, somehow or another, I'm going to make it through this. I have no idea, and time is running out. But somehow, God's going to help. And he did. And so the Israelites kind of make me think of that. Like, they had their doubts, and we all have our doubts. So I'm not really too mad at them for that. But, the wonders he showed them was ridiculous. But I still get it. They've been through a lot. They were just coming out of slavery and coming out of an extreme oppression. And, this is new for them, being rescued and being cared about like this. Kind of reminds me of like an abused spouse finally getting a nice partner later on, but only knowing abuse. It's like, yeah, you got this good person here, but it's going to take some getting used to, for sure. It's going to take some time getting used to that based on the fact that The only thing that said person knows is this trouble that they used to deal with their previous partner. So, I'm going on and on and on about it. I'm going to wrap this up, but I think there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. I'm trying to see if I can find it really fast. Oh, yeah. The other part about them complaining. Oh, we should have just died in Egypt. There's enough graves over there for us. Oh, gosh, I get it, though. It's annoying, but, especially when you're looking at it from another person doing it. But I've done it. It kind of reminds me, again, like of coming out of a bad relationship, or whatever. And I remember thinking, me personally, it's just some years ago, but coming out of a bad relationship, and I mean, it was abusive to the very end. It was just so abusive. I might tell you guys about that at some point. At a different time in life, I suppose I'll tell you. Not too far from now, but maybe. If God permits it. But long story short, when I finally left, or took a break or whatever, there was some distance between me and this person. They still continued to treat me pretty poorly. I had dealt with a lot of heartache for a long time because even after I'd separated from them, it was a very complicated situation. So even after I'd separated from them, they continued to hurt me. And I just remember thinking, that I made this big mistake. Maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut and just took it, just dealt with it. But the way that I was treated wasn't really very kind or loving or caring or human. And when I separated myself, it was like, kind of reminds me of Pharaoh. They were just out to try to get revenge or to change the narrative. It was not really about making things right with me, but it was more about that person looking like the victim and winning or something, triumphing over me in some way or something. I'm not really sure. I can't really get to the bottom of what that all was. But it was definitely someone trying to have revenge. And for me, it wasn't anything about that. I never wanted to leave. I just wanted to be cared about and to be loved. And I couldn't stand not being that. I couldn't stand just being just like some kind of placeholder or something. I don't really know what I was to that person. I think probably I'll never really know. But whatever it wasn't something good, and it wasn't something healthy that a man should be treating his girl, his woman, his whatever you want to call this, his spouse, Anyway. It reminds me of that, because I was thinking to myself, I made this big mistake. I should have just taken it, Maybe I was just better off, even if he didn't love me and stuff. Maybe I was better off just being with this person anyway, because of whatever factors I felt like were important. I don't know. None of it was. I gotta tell you, none of it was. But at the time, I remember thinking I should have just stayed, and it makes me think of this, like staying in Egypt. I thought about this years ago, too. Back then, I was like, wow, I wanted to stay in Egypt. Even though I was oppressed and abused. I thought that was better than what I had to go through after that, which, like I said, I've been dealing with Job-level situations for a long time, maybe my whole life, but especially in the past few years, for sure, it's been hard. A big part of it being so hard is because of that situation that I had to get out of, that I didn't even understand, like the depth of why I really had to get out of it. But there was so much that I had to deal with that was painful because of being delivered, we'll say, from that, because God gave me a straight path out of there. It's crazy. That was the easiest part, was God getting me out. But then it was just like the healing and the journey of getting closer with God and really reconciling with him in some ways, because I was literally in the world at that point. But I just remember thinking to myself, things are so hard now, harder than they were even then when I was oppressed and abused. Things are so hard now, and there's really nothing to look forward to. Maybe it would have been better if I'd stayed there. Maybe my life with the quality of it, maybe I'd have some kind of happiness if I'd stayed there, despite, what I was dealing with, and despite the fact that really, I don't think that person even cared about me. Doesn't seem like they even cared about me. So it was weird for them to be in this long-term relationship with me when they didn't really care about my well-being or anything. And I felt like that was better than what I was dealing with by myself. That was a lot. Every aspect of my life was destroyed. So anyway, I don't know if this is like a slight testimony for somebody out there, but I'm going to put it this way. Despite everything that did happen afterward that I had to deal with, things are finally starting to look up, which is why God, I guess, has me on here reading and has the blog up that I'm writing. You guys can check out, the link is below. Is because things are finally getting somewhere. He's creating opportunities and opening doors and giving me experiences that lead to other experiences. And many of them are to help others. And as well as helping myself and heal me and things. But as hard as everything was, I think I would rather be in a peaceful situation on my own. And I love the fact that he got me through this and I didn't have to use people to do that. I didn't jump into some other relationship or, I didn't do any of that. I just did it with the grace of God walking with me and just getting me through, a lot of really hard times. Really hard. And I mean, just as recent as today, But also today, there's so many good things that my past self in that abusive situation had dreamed of that's starting to come into fruition for me by the grace of God, because of the gifts and blessings of God. So, you might seem like maybe it was better if you'd stayed in Egypt. It's not. Just stick with God. And it's easier to see it when you're looking at other people's circumstances instead of your own. But I hope that in some way, if anybody catches this video and they find themselves maybe in that type of mindset where they maybe are reminiscing on their past or hoping to, thinking that maybe what they had, it wasn't so bad. And it was, it was abusive, oppressive, and maybe you're lonely now, or maybe things are harder because you're having to deal with a lot by yourself. That's still better than some people or person doing you harm. Because with God, there's hope. Even by yourself, you're not by yourself. God's here. There's hope. And you just got to keep pushing forward with his help. And he'll bless you over and over and over, like he did with me in these tests, in this program. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. He's been blessing me in so many ways that I just want to do some testimonies. I noticed that I have 60 subscribers. I'm going to put up some shorts. Probably, I'll do a couple of them probably today. And probably I'll make the shorts for weekends from now on, because the shorts are really just this compacted, into moments. So you can get all of the shorts from my Bible reading episodes, or whatever you want to call them. So I guess that's about it. I think it's really interesting. He really wanted to humble Pharaoh, since Pharaoh just didn't want to give up on his revenge or whatever. And so he goes into that split sea as well. But God's having it's not even solid ground anymore. It's muddy ground and the chariot wheels. And, he came I think it said 600 or something like that. And it's a ridiculous amount of, just ridiculous amount of people to come and get their revenge. And he's making sure God's making sure the chariots get stuck in the mud and all this stuff. And they're starting to fear, oh my gosh, God's really fighting for them. Let's just leave them alone. Well, you should have already, 10 times or whatever ago. God's had it. As soon as the Israelites are out, has Moses stretch out that hand. Sea comes down on the Israelites. Not on the Israelites, sorry, on the Egyptians. Israelites are safe on the other side. But it comes down on all the Egyptians, and they're all gone. They're all dead. Because they just couldn't forgive or let it go, or not want to get revenge when it was unjust. They just couldn't do that. So in the end, not only was the country and everything was destroyed, but their lives now are gone too. So there's some verses in the Bible about the evil ones digging a ditch for themselves, and they fall in it. They roll the stone and it rolls back on them. There's another one in the Psalm, I think maybe 34. He should bring upon them their own iniquity and shall cut them off in their own wickedness. Yeah, Yahuwah, our Elohim, shall cut them off. Like, God is going to watch over those who love him. He's going to keep things blessed. Even in hard times, it's not going to be perfect because we're in a sinful world and whatnot, and we're not perfect. But God really does watch over his children. And even if it seems like Pharaoh or whatever, the makeshift Pharaoh or Egypt in your life is winning, whatever that means, there's a consequence to all the stuff that we do in this life. I've had people treat me like crap or try to oppress me that don't even know me. I've known people that have tried to do that for years. It's really weird, and usually there's some men. But God sees all of this, and I know God's going to do his thing, and it got nothing to do with me. And I'm just kind of over worrying about it. I'm more or less just annoyed and tired of it and ready to move on from it. I don't want revenge or nothing. I'm going to let God be the judge, because he knows how to do it right. He knows the heart of man. He knows what motivates people of doing that. And he knows just how to exact accountability on each and every one of us for our actions. So I'd rather try to be blameless and pray for them. But most of all, just move on. Dust off my sandals and leave once that door opens. So, interesting. They're now free. They're never going to be bothered by the Egyptians again because they're dead. And now they're going to go off and into their new life with God, their Savior. And they know at this point they're convinced. Took all that, but okay, I get it. You've been abused and this is new. But now we're going to see what happens to them. Now that they're free. And I mean really free, where there's no Pharaoh in Egypt coming after them anymore. So I'll see you in chapter 15, and I hope you guys have a blessed day. I love you, and bye.